You are listening to All Burgundy and Gold, everything powered by the urban sports scene, Fox Sports Radio 96.9 FM and 1340 AM, Hopewell, Virginia. Wole and Glen are your hosts. Mo and the homie Ray are out. Hey, joining us as a guest is Adam Aniba from the Burgundy and Gold Report. Adam, what is good, my man?
What's up? What's up? Always fun to be on, man.
Always a pleasure having you on, my man. You know what I mean? We promised this a couple weeks ago that we're going to
Yeah,
be talking about
I
a
appreciate
certain
you
player.
going,
And I'm a
man.
man of my word. All right, I'm a
You
man of
are.
my word.
You
That's
are.
one thing I want to do. I want to keep my word. Hey, before we get to that particular player, hey, subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Just search All Burgundy and Gold Everything. Also, tweet us at ABG_everything and hit us up on IG at ABG_everything and like our All Burgundy and Gold Everything's Facebook page. Excuse me, I got tongue twisted. Hey, make sure you subscribe to our All Burgundy and Gold Everything YouTube channel as well. All right, it's time for the pregame. Here's what we have on tap. We'll talk about rookie safety Percy Butler. This is a dude that everybody's talking about. Let's get right into it. Adam, you wrote an article on the safety Butler. You talked about him possibly getting 50% of the snaps. Do you really see him as a big contributor early in the season?
Well, I took that also off of Ron Rivera's comments because
Yeah.
he was mentioning it there in the nickel 53% of the time. And then specifically when Julie Donaldson asked him about his role as a special teams gunner, his response, well, if a guy receives 53% of snaps, he's a starter, so you got to be careful. So we haven't even got to camp yet, and the way he's talking. And I understand people say Ron Rivera talks people up, but I have not seen this happen with any other rookies so far with him. They see a lot in him, and although they keep talking the Buffalo nickel, I see this guy as the ultimate free safety down the line. I think bringing Bobby McCain back was a smart move because he's a versatile guy, can play a little slot, play a little deep, but he's not, your true free safety. But that's what Butler is. You know what I mean? He'll take his lumps as far as, man coverage, but when you put him in shells and you put him in zone coverage cloud, he excelled. And I saw his last year with the Raging Cajuns. He really stepped it up as far as, his tackling, some people question, but, multiple fumble recoveries, multiple forced fumbles. I would like to see a little more passes defended him, but that also has to do with the Raging Cajun scheme. I think when Washington, I think they have a clear plan for him. And again, I take it with a grain of salt, but those one press conference and then one interview with Julie Donaldson and Ron Rivera, it was adamant that, listen, we're going to be in this formation over 50% of the time, and he's going to be one of the safeties. So when I heard that, I was all over his game tape.
Hey, Glenn, you had anything to add to that?
Yeah, you mentioned some of Butler's pros and cons. Can you go ahead and elaborate what some of his pros and cons on the football field is? I know we talked about, at the Raging Cage, but on this
I mentioned the man coverage issue. He did struggle in that. That had to do, sometimes they moved him around. They even actually put him, manned him up instead of putting him, in deep safety. But I think his limited explosion, that 31.5-inch vertical, I don't know. For a free safety, I like to see a little more, athletic traits. He lunges a little too often. That is something that I think that a lot of rookies do, and a lot of tendency to bite on play action. So a lot of the cons, I think you're going to see with a lot of the rookies. But again, what I really liked about him is his speed. As deep speed was the second fastest time among the safeties at the combine. So although he's a fourth round, he's one of the fastest deep safeties in the draft. But again, like I said, his technique needs refinement. But when I see a guy that's willing to mix it up, get in the fold, that's what I like. But again, the lunging is an issue. But what I walked away after watching this tape is he's tailor-made for zone coverage. I think with Washington, they'll tell us that they want to do a mixture of both because we saw William Jackson was kind of being force-fed into this, even though we said, he came here, this is a Josh Norman situation where he's more a man corner. They're kind of just trying to shove it down his throat. But in this case, I think with Percy, I think they've actually got the idea right. This is a guy who excels in zone. In the beginning, they'll try to get him into three safeties. Formations, but in the end, I think his perfect role is a true free safety. And I've talked to a couple of readers and fans, and they think, well, how can we know that too early? And I said, well, Cam Curl was able to carve out a role, and again, free safety, strong safety, hybrids, very different situations. But I just see his instincts on covering the deep part of the field, a single high. I've heard some guys that I really respect that they don't see him as a single high. They think, keep him in that mid range. You got to give him a lot of help, a lot of support. But I think, after maybe mid-season or so, in this system with, a lot of the support he's going to be getting, I think Cam Curl, I mentioned, I think is a great mentor for him. I think the sky's the limit for him, but I really think that the pros definitely weigh out the cons in his situation.
And you must be reading my question. That was my next question. Cam was drafted in the 7th round of 2020, right? Butler was drafted in the 4th round. Do Cam Curl see this as competition, or can Cam Curl be that mentor to Butler?
Yeah, I think he's the mentor, because ultimately you want to be interchangeable. But I think with Cam Curl, they have to allow him to just solidify himself in that. If you want to call it a hybrid strong safety, because it's not that typical box that we see in the past. But the way the NFL works, they're not really having those box type guys anymore. So I think if you could just keep him over there, and then his role is just to really get him acclimated, I think that's the best way to use those two together. I don't think this is a situation where it's Cam Curl, Bobby McCain, and then Percy comes in the 3 safety sets. I think something's got to give. I think early on, McCain that'll probably be his role. But I think if everything goes as planned that they want, Percy Butler will probably be the starting free safety sooner rather than later. But I think Cam Curl, to me, day 3 guy, long shot. I think that's the best guy to mentor him, because, I don't know if you guys follow his dad, Greg, but
he's live on Twitter. On Twitter.
He's great. You know what I mean? I've talked to him a couple of times and I see where, it's just that dog in him. And I see the same thing with Percy Butler. Like I said, refinements are needed, but when you have a true free safety that is willing to mix it up, willing to, support the run, I love it. It's just, I think that there's a couple of things, his lean frame, he has a frame to, put on mass, not too much, because you don't want a guy like that to lose too much speed. But I think in the end, he's going to be a really valuable asset, especially, when we're facing 3-4 wide receiver sets, and they're going to be, on their toes in the back. I think that's the guy you want to have back there.
So Coach Rivera has stated that, he's looked at him as a possible Buffalo nickel. But you're saying that down the road you see him as playing like free safety?
True free safety. I think in the beginning, I'd be a little surprised, because if you're talking about Cam Curl, Bobby McCain, and Butler, that's kind of small, because usually one of those guys is that they call the big nickel, and none of those guys fit that role unless they're maybe thinking Curl can. I don't know, but I think you saw it with they looked at Hudson, they looked at the other guys on the roster. I even mentioned his teammate Gardner, which is kind of a roster long shot as an undrafted, another Raging Cajun. But I think, believe it or not, with the current depth, I think these undrafted guys have a great chance, because I don't think anybody is truly outplaying them as far as the depth position goes. But maybe in the beginning, if they can figure that out, but I just don't see McCain and Butler as 2 guys that you're going to use in that role. I think that they could be out in the field at the same time, but I don't see how it's going to be strictly like that. I think exactly his ultimate spot is going to be free safety.
So I guess so. And look at this. So Butler is a good special teamer. Supposedly he has that trait. And so 4.3 speed, obviously. So the speed is elite speed. Do you look at him as a player that could be a playmaker, not just a solid player, but a playmaker? Guy who could create turnovers. Because when you think of a safety, like a lot of times, we think hits. We do think hits, but we do think that safety is as a playmaker, guy who can get some picks, take it to the house, create fumbles. Ed Reed, Sean Taylor, something like that effect. That's the mindset a lot of fans have with the safety. Do you think he can be that type of safety?
I'm not sure yet. Just looking, only 3 career interceptions. He did have one of those last year, but I did say he had the 4 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles last year in his career, 5 forced fumbles, 5 recoveries. So a lot of that came in the run. There wasn't like, he made a tackle, 20 yards downfield and stripped the ball like we saw Norman do, like a peanut punch. So I haven't seen that from him. So I'm hoping for him to have longevity and to be in the conversation that we're talking about. He's got to have a lot more. His instincts have to improve in the deep part of the field, because what I've seen him do, if it's in front of him and he can just go straight up, man, he'll make the play. But when he's got to go sideline to sideline, there was a couple occasions where I just think he was taking some bad angles. But again, there's a lot of things in his game, in my opinion, that are extremely correctable, and it's just going to take reps. It might be a half season, it might even be a full season before he starts to get extended time, but the coach is already talking about over 50% of the time. So to me, they drafted him in the 4th round with a distinctive plan. I have not heard Rivera talk about a non-first rounder in a way like this. So I think they love him.
So how would you compare him to the guy that you talked about who went to the Patriots? Is Diggins or Duggins, right?
Duggar.
Totally,
totally different guys. We saw Duggar just absolutely exploded last year.
Okay.
That guy, I think that with him, similar as far as I have some concerns in man coverage. Same with Duggar, but Duggar is a fierce hitter, and he's textbook. That's one thing about him. I think it was 6 years total he was in college, and one thing he refined was his tackling ability, his angles, his ability to play that hybrid role. I don't see Butler in the hybrid role as many people think. Like, as we say Buffalo nickel because we're playing the 3 safety set, but in the end, I think you get him acclimated that way. But I think the only way he'll have success is not in that rotation role. The real success he'll have in that free safety, and again, it's anybody's guess how he's going to be against these quarterbacks. Because again, you're talking about lower level competition, biting on play action, really getting fooled by the quarterback's eyes. So when he faces quarterbacks in the next level, it's going to be way more difficult. But the question is, how much faith do we have in these defensive backs coaches? Because I think that's going to determine everything for players like him.
Yeah, my question to that real quick was, when we saw them go to the nickel a little bit last year, we saw a lot of teams begin to spread them out, right? They go into spread offenses, which gives a wide receiver matched up on the linebacker here. Right? What can Percy do, or what can Cam Curl or other safeties bring in this nickel when teams begin to spread them out, and you have that linebacker matched up on a receiver, a slot, and something of that nature?
Right. And see that'll be what I'm looking for, because when they go to these the formations, is going to, Cole Holcomb is going to be one of your guys. I think he showed that, he definitely has improved some aspects of his coverage with Butler. Like I said, I don't want him going man to man. Bobby McCain, I saw, if you look with his Miami film, he did it a lot more with the Dolphins. So I have a little more confidence about him matching up. He matched up against the slots. He's not the ideal solution there. But yeah, teams are going to spread out like that. For me, if you're going to have Butler on the field, the best way to use him in that situation is get him in that deep portion and really, give him support. Are you going to make him the last line of defense? That's a little bit concerning early on, but I do see that as his ceiling, as the guy that can be that last line of defense, get you, 2-3 interceptions, 2-3 forced fumbles a year. I'm not saying that's a ceiling, but I can see that happening in maybe late in the year. But more specifically in year 2, I think is going to be where he gets it. But we've seen this revolving door of free safety, and they've tried to solve it by just having exactly more personnel, nickel packages, just trying to be creative. But I think they really saw Butler, and I do think they had some other safeties in the earlier rounds. I think a lot of people questioned why they passed on Kyle Hamilton. I love Kyle Hamilton, but I think what they're looking to do in their zone coverage is have a guy that just has that pure speed that can chase them down. And that's not what Kyle Hamilton was going to do. That's what Butler can do. So I think they love his speed. They love his athletic traits back there, but it'll be really questionable early on, having him too close to the line and asking him to make plays in the short and intermediate, because that's when I saw, a couple of issues on his game film.
I mean, I like Jahan Dotson, but I want Kyle Hamilton. I'm not going to make any secret about it. I'm all about playmakers. Speed is speed. If you can't ball, and with speed, you know what I mean. So everybody gets fixated on speed. If you have speed and you can ball, that's different. But it is what it is. But
it's play speed. Kyle Hamilton, that's the thing.
He plays fast. He plays fast.
I know what they're doing. I don't agree.
Yeah, I know. Adam,
I know Kyle Hamilton, because I just think you had Kyle Hamilton and you have Curl. That's crazy right there. I think you can literally mix and match.
You can literally switch. Yeah, there's nothing.
You can't do that. I don't really feel the same with what we have right now. I feel like Curl. That's why I feel that they did this, because I feel that they really want him to own that strong safety position and really finally address the free safety. That's the only thing I can take out of it, because I don't know how to pass on Kyle Hamilton.
I got a question for you though. Could it was going back to Rivera's pass in Carolina, right? He took a guy like Shaq Thomas, who played safety in college, right? And brought Shaq Thomas down to linebacker in Carolina. Could he do that with maybe Percy or Cam Curl? That we may see one of those two guys come down like he did Shaq Thomas in Carolina?
I don't see it personally, because I think those guys, I think that would just be a misuse of their athletic ability. I think both of those guys in coverage, they're awesome. And I think if you're going to look to be creative, I think, you have to maybe, like I said, I had that guy Gardner, which is Percy Butler's teammate with the Raging Cajuns. I kind of liked him because he was able to, he's not a pure safety. He's not a pure linebacker. He's somewhere in between. So I'm looking for camp. I'm looking for a battle between Hudson and Gardner, because I think Gardner is going to be converted, could possibly be converted to a tweener, nickel linebacker.
Oh, so what would you say is Percy Butler's comp? What is his comp?
I don't really have one, because like I said, I think that, he's good at covering the deep portion of the field, but he's not jumping out to me like right now, like he's going to be an all-star.
Gotcha.
I think he's got a long way to go, but in saying he's got a long way to go doesn't mean he can't be a starting free safety.
Okay.
Because we've seen what they've done in Washington. They've just constantly, rinse and repeat free agents. They pick up, like, I don't really remember the last time we saw a rookie get a real opportunity to play free safety for the Washington since Sean Taylor died, that's for sure. So I think their best bet is really just get him acclimated into that three safety set and slowly see who's playing the deep field better, because I think he's going to play better than McCain. People are looking at this last couple of games from McCain. They're just casuals, and they're like, oh, look at all those interceptions. Well, those all happened in a small, small time frame. So I'm not convinced McCain is a starter. I like him a lot as a depth guy. He showed me that last year. But to have him back there, 70% of the snaps at free safety, I hope not.
See, I actually like McCain. I guess I like McCain. I think the defense had a lot of issues. To put it that way.
It wasn't just on him.
Yeah, so I just think that if everything goes right with the pressure, McCain can do some things. I think McCain could be solid. You know what I mean? Like nothing's solid. And
Solid.
I think everybody. It's almost like the tackle situation, like the left tackle situation. Everybody looks for Trent Williams, right, at tackle. Safety, everybody looks for Sean Taylor. It is what it is. We've been searching for it for years, right? So it's like when you got somebody solid, we grade certain people on the wrong curve. Even cornerback play, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
This team has been spoiled with cornerback play. When we talk about Sean Springs, you're talking about even Carlos Rogers when he was here, Champ Bailey. Like these dudes were good corners. Like Darrell Green, I mean, obviously the best of the best, Darrell Green. Like this team has been spoiled with some really. Fred Smoot was a good cornerback. Like this team has been spoiled with good cornerbacks. So when they get like certain corners, they're like, oh.
So, we were talking about earlier, I was in the spaces, and they were talking about specifically about development with the cornerbacks. And specifically, they mentioned Carlos Rogers. And I said, a lot of people didn't know about it. When he went to San Francisco, like, what happened? All of a sudden got hands. No, he got his eyes checked.
Exactly.
He had coaches that realized, hey, there's something wrong here. And I think he got contacts in camp and then got LASIK and then what he had, 5 interceptions.
Yeah, and the thing about, like, this is the thing that I always talk about corners. I mean, I know we're going off topic, but because I'm about to end the show off. But the thing about corners and what I liked about Los was that he was always around the ball. Like, I'm always cool with that. Like, you're not getting burnt. Like, when you get burnt, I got an issue with you. But when sometimes you, like you said, couldn't adjust to the ball, like he couldn't see. But he was always around the play. Like, that's why I know you're a good cornerback when you're around the play.
But that's why you like Bobby McCann, because McCann's always around the ball.
Yeah, he's around the ball. Like, I like him to go around the ball.
McCann is always around the ball, and that's why I see with Percy Butler. If you look at Percy's last couple of games and when he was a Raging Cajun, he was always around the football. And you want those players always around the football. Yeah. That's why fans were so mad when Jimmy Moreland left, because he
was always around the ball.
Jimmy Moreland, even though he was 5'11", 182, 190 pounds, give or take, but he was always around the football, right? And that's why fans were so mad when Jimmy Moreland left town. Even though he wasn't the biggest corner, he was always around the football. And that's what you want. You want players who was always around the football. They can make a play. They can strip a ball. They can pick one up and move. And I think that's what we have in Percy Butler. And that's what we think you have in McCann as well.
But, one thing I always do, it's not imperative, but I like seeing what they do in high school and the track and field background and the player receiver, specifically the player receiver.
I like that.
Really good hands. And I think that matters probably more for free safety than even, maybe QB1 and free safety are the most important to have really good hands, because there's a lot of targets you're going to see there. So I think, with that combination, fans will say, let's see him how he's on special teams. But I have a feeling he's not going to be utilized on special teams, because like Ron Rivera said, you got to be careful if you're playing a guy over 53% of the snaps on special teams. So Again, man, it's really they're giving him a high praise, so hopefully it's going somewhere. But again, just like you said, I love the tape, and I saw the last couple games. He really started to put it all together as a safety. So
yeah, hopefully it all works out. So Adam, before we let you go, how can folks catch you on social media and tell us about your content, something what you have posted already?
Definitely. So with camp coming, we have some camp storylines on defense. We're going to touch on a couple on offense, but again, we have another undrafted addition, a Cal corner that'll be coming out hopefully tonight or tomorrow. But yeah, just check us out, the Burgundy and goldreport.com. We'll have our YouTube show coming out. We'll have an episode coming out before camp. Always check us out on Twitter at the BNG Report. And my link tree is up on Twitter, so you can pretty much go to all my socials there, and just come to Burgundy and Gold Report, subscribe, no charge. You get all my contact email direct to you at no cost.
Sounds good. Adam, thanks for being on. We appreciate you. Also, subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Just search all Burgundy and Gold, everything with the urban sports scene. Also, and Fox Sports Radio 96.9 FM and 1340 AM Wole, Virginia. Also, tweet us at ABG_everything and hit us up on IG at ABG_everything. And like our All Burgundy and Gold Everything Facebook page as well. Make sure you subscribe to our All Burgundy and Gold Everything YouTube channel. More subscriptions, baby. We need them. We love them. Feels good, man. Feels good to be loved in life. You know what I'm saying? Hey, anyway, you've been listening to All Burgundy and Gold Everything, powered by the urban sports scene and Fox Sports Radio 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. Hopewell, Virginia, for ages. Yidig. Deuces, A Mega. Leaders out, big homie.